I give thanks. Now, planning. So in the planning, I had to think about where I want to be in the next 5 years. So how I went about this, and you will receive a video that goes through this. If you sign up to IdecidedToLive.com, you don't have to do it right now, but IdecidedToLive.com, and I will communicate with you from there. Right, so where do I want? So by planning, you begin to unfold all the parts of you that you forgot existed. So there are so many things within you that now during COVID, you've realized you have to rely on. Now, something I do, I've always did it in my book from when I went to West Indies College in long time. I was studying. I was working in the finance office for the finance directors, typing. Those were the days. I had my own typing machine. It was an electronic typing machine. I brought it over from England in the barrel. Yep. Not only food comes in a barrel. So I brought it over in the barrel so that I could use it to make money to pay for my fees and my living accommodation. So I would always send a barrel over that had my food, dried tins, my essentials, and every year that I went up. And I also had my typewriter or anything that I needed for work. And besides typing, I would also sell food. Now, food is my other area. So I would sell food, and I was studying dietetics before I then moved into computing, into programming, and into where I am now. I was teaching for more than 20 years as a computer science lecturer, teaching programming. And in the process, I had to also teach media, all of those other great tools, which over the years moved on from hot potatoes and quai to now what you call articulate, storyline, which is just like PowerPoint on steroids. And you've got some of the other things, video editing, you've got Photoshop, then I use Corel Draw. Everything was really complicated, but now it's so much easier, and you don't have to be a technician to actually, get accustomed to these tools and exactly what you should do. So anyway, that's just a bit about me. Moving on. So let me just go through this little bit here that you will find when I send you the material. So you can feel that you're on the brink of achieving something special, but you just don't know how to achieve it. So I'm going to share with you the planning part, then I'm going to the presentation. Now, if you are on Zoom, you'll see the presentation. On YouTube, you may not. On Facebook, you may not. But you can get access to these things. If you go to IdecidedToLive.com, then I will communicate with you and send these things. Okay? So, pen and paper. Do you have a pen and paper right now? If you have a pen and paper, please get it. Get your pen and paper. There's nothing like good old-fashioned pen, and get an old diary that you haven't been using and just use all the pages. Dare I say, use the parts of 2020 that you did not use, really, in life. Empty pages, let's fill them up with our plans. So 5 years' time, where do you want to be? The only way to do that is to identify, let me just give a little wave, is just to identify where you want to be. Identify where you want to be, and then start looking at your first steps. So identify where you want to be, right? So I want to be, in 5 years' time, I want to have a successful hair salon. Let's say that's it. Or no, let me stick to what I know. I want to have a successful restaurant, food business. Okay, fine. What's your first steps? So your first steps, you need to find out what you need to know in order to have that food business and run it successfully. So this is the knowledge part. And I was writing some things down, and these 3 things include, right, these are the 3 nuggets you need. You need to have knowledge. You need to have, I'm one of those learners, I have to write it down so that I remember. You need to have understanding of, so you've got to take that knowledge and then you've got to apply that knowledge to a particular thing. So in order for me to run a business, a food business, I need to now take my knowledge of running a food business and actually get my hands dirty, actually do what I'm supposed to do, sign up with the government, get the appropriate HACCP documentation, start making my notes, writing down my recipes, seeing how I work, what's the health and safety compliance that I must have, make sure I document everything, any risk assessments to be done, etc. And then by applying your knowledge, you gain understanding, and as you run your business over time, you develop wisdom so that you make the right choices, and making the right choices is key to your business being successful. Okay? Right. So the first step, what is your main goal? So that could be a short-term, long-term goal, and your short-term to make money, your capital. So how are you going to do that? So you might have to do some jobs that help you to build up the capital to get to where you're going. Okay, and you need to start saving it. Write it down and write a list of all the things you have to do in the next 12 months to get there. Now, with COVID and with people not having jobs, you don't have 12 months. So what I suggest to you, there are lots of courses you can get online that are free. You can start building knowledge, go to LinkedIn Learning. There's a free trial for, I think it's 14 to 21 days. We want to turn this around really quickly so that you start working on your final goal. So in year 1, what you're going to do is write down all of the things you need to do. If you need to attend courses, say what courses you want to attend. If you need to sign up to agencies, and I guarantee if you sign up to agencies, you are a lot more successful with getting these online jobs. You're a lot more successful because in a way they bridge the gap. They go between you and the client. Also, you have to make sure that you have someone help you with your CV. If your CV is not identifying examples of work you have done or skills that you have, then you will find it very difficult to tap in to online learning. But let me tell you, I found secretarial jobs online, remote. Everybody's working remotely. And if you do not tap in, you will miss it. You have secretaries, you have admin, you have coordinators, you have customer service, all of these things. You don't have to be a course designer. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a media specialist. Companies need you online, and they need you online to help them build their business. Okay? So like myself, I have an assistant that helps me, and for the hours that we can do, we do. Okay? And we get as much done as we can. And just as an example, go to idecidedtolive.com. We've knocked that up in the last 20 minutes, and we've put all the links and done what we have to do. We'll add to it later. But the point is, you have to start somewhere. Don't just not do anything. Don't just ignore the things that you're trying to achieve. I'm so sorry. Yeah, don't ignore the things that you're trying to achieve and just say, oh, I can't be bothered. It's going to take too much time. Start. You have to just start and be determined. And trust me, those bills that are coming to you are going to show you how to start. You're going to just get on it. right? So start doing those courses. It might take an hour, 2 hours to go through those courses. If you're on LinkedIn, do the courses, before the payment period comes up, and get the badges. Yeah. And get certified for certain things. Get those badges and put it on your LinkedIn. So let me move now into the actual presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. And those of you who are on YouTube may miss it. Those of you on Zoom may miss it. Those of you on Facebook may miss it. But as I said, go to Zoom. And the number is 7629 305488, and the passwords is nuts at bolts, BOLTS. Yeah. Right. So we're going to look at creating your online course, the nuts and bolts. So have you ever seen ants, how they work? Ants are very, very organized in the way that they work. Okay. Yeah. So ants are very organized in the way that they work. So you'll notice that they work as a team. They never go individually. You see a long line of them. I've got a story all about that. When I was in Jamaica and I was looking on the veranda, it was a small veranda, and I saw this dead lizard. And I was like, is it alive? It's dead, is it? Then I realized it was dead, and I thought, I'll let it dry out in the sun. I know. But anyway, I was wondering who's going to touch that, because I'm not touching it. So then what happened? I saw these big red ants. Don't know if any of you from the Caribbean know them or other places. And these ants, they cut. And the reason I know they cut, I remember I was in the kitchen one day cooking something, and it was a particular day when ants, a particular time in the day when you get a whole carpet of ants. It's like they're coming through the house, and I wiggled my fingers and they cut right in between here. I actually saw the scar. Those days we weren't doing selfies. So there was a scar there. I haven't got a picture to prove it, but I remember the pain, and it hurt so much. And when I realized it was that, I got up on the chair and I didn't move until all these ants went through. But that's what they did. They, piece by piece by piece, they cut up this lizard. And then I saw a skeleton and I thought, what are they going to do with the skeleton? And I just sat there and watched. And eventually they came and they took bit by bit. My goodness. But how they worked as a team. They didn't go just randomly, just come from anywhere. They went as a team. They had a plan, bit by bit by bit. So whatever you do, have a plan. Anyway, let's get back to this. So once you're sure of your goal, do you want to change to a digital career? And I think the answer has to be yes. It has to include yes in there, because everything is remote. The majority of things is remote. Or do you want to start a digital business? So do you want your business to be online? So you might need to know something about email marketing, how to communicate with people, landing pages, all that kind of good stuff. You might want to create an online course that you then sell to people. You might want to sell a skill that you have. If you're singing, sell voice training. I mean, come on. There's so many people that want to learn how to sing. And I believe everyone can sing. I haven't done that course. I should have, but I didn't. And the end result is that you will acquire your first steps towards that goal, or you will get help to build that digital dream. So if you take the first steps, then you will acquire your first steps, or you will get the help. But if you don't do anything, I don't think much is going to happen. Right. So going digital, the nuts and bolts. Okay. What will you be teaching is my question. Working in, if you're working in the area of online courses, you will learn that there are going to be some things that you do that you do not have the skills to do. Yeah. It may be that, hold on. Right. It may be, sorry. It may be that you have to communicate with people who are specialists in their area, and that's what you call SME, a subject matter expert. So I have done courses in marine training. I have never, ever driven a boat. Do you drive a boat? Anyway, I have never, ever been in the Marines. I have no specific training in the Marines, yet that is the training that I was delivering via creating courses. The only way I knew how to deliver that is I would have to communicate with the SMEs. I would have to find out from them, what this meant, what that meant, get definitions, then kind of make that interactive, make that information come alive, that knowledge come alive, so that the person who is being trained gains understanding and as a result develop wisdom. Yeah, the 3 steps: knowledge, understanding, and then you gain wisdom. Yeah. What is your brand? You have to think about your brand colors because they say something about you. So purple is competition, success, for instance. And if you look at different companies, they use specific colors, and there are reasons why. It's a psychological thing of what people perceive when they see certain colors. And you don't realize it, but there is a psychology to colors. So get yourself the color wheel, the brand color wheel, and pick your colors. No more than 3. I would say 2 or 3. And the third one might just be a tertiary color, like a secondary color, just a little teeny bit of it. Something like red or yellow. You wouldn't have too much, or maybe you will, like I do, because my book is red, black, white writing. Those are my colors. So who is your ultimate client? So you have to think about who is the client. If you are going into business, who is the person or who are the persons you are going to target to make that money? Or who do you want to create courses for? Do you want to do it for education, or do you want to do it for is somebody requesting to come on camera? No? Okay. Yeah. Or do you want to do it for commercial or advertising? Everything is different. Every different type of client requires a different type of designer. So I don't necessarily do advertising because that's fast paced. It's very different. You need a different mindset, and usually it's a younger mindset than me. I'm more educational, higher education. I'm more banking, finance, solicitors, government. That's more where I am, the kind of logical stuff. So that's the type of client that I work for. Look at what tools you have. So are the tools that you have adequate to do the job? So you wouldn't go and build a house with just a hammer. I hope not, because you'll be breaking down before you build up. So you have to think about all the tools that you need. If I'm going to build a food business, back to my original example, yes, I need food, but I also need a place to serve the food. I need pots to cook the food in. And, you need plates to serve the food. Or you need containers for people to put the food in. You have to think about your tools. So in creating courses, some of the things you need is you need a video editor, definitely a video editor. You can use something like Audacity to edit voice audio, Any voiceovers, takes out the pops and whistles and the like me, I've got a lisp. So I have to kind of like flatten the lisp whenever I do voiceovers. You will need an authoring tool of some kind. I use Articulate Storyline. There's Adobe Captivate. There are others that are within software. So, for instance, Moodle has its own. There's HP5. This is new things that you use an external authoring tool and bring it into Moodle or Tutora or what have you. There's so many LMS platforms. So I use Moodle, SaaS platforms, which look a bit like Thinkific, Kajabi, Teachable. If I'm talking double Dutch to you, you need to get in touch so that you can understand what all of this means. LinkedIn Learning, and do some of the courses and get those badges on your LinkedIn profile. If you go to my profile, you'll see I've got a couple of the badges at the bottom. It's not things I don't know. I did it just to have the badges, but I know those things. I do those things already, but I did it to make sure the badges were on my profile. So make sure you do that. Project management tools. I use things like Trello, Asana, Favro, and they help you to organize your courses and your work, especially if you're going digital and you have somebody working with you. It's a great place to collaborate rather than lots of emails back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It could be confusing. Okay. Get templates. Most people use a template when they are building. So make sure you have templates either for your emails, for your designing, your storyboarding, your scripting. And remember, I'm talking about developing courses online. That's what I'm talking about. But you may want to do other things digitally. Make sure you have the right templates for the job you need to do and the right tools. So if you are going to do secretarial work, admin work, coordinator work, make sure you have Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Make sure you have those at least. And you can get online Office 365. You can get it, for personal use. I think it's about £76 to £80 for the year. I recommend that you invest because, and you have to invest. You do have to invest. So whether you're buying tools, I've got some links to get some tools cheaper. But again, keep in touch and then I can help you. But what I am saying to you, you can, now is not a time to go knocking on door with a CV, a bit of paper. People don't even want paper anymore. Even your CVs, I've learned that my CV, I had tables and it was looking all amazing. And I was told that they use software for CVs. And CVs have to be free from all those things. If they can't read your CV, that's usually why most of the times they reject it, because they get hundreds of people applying. So I took out all the tables and all I've got is plain text and bullet points. So those are the things that, it works. And another thing I learned from a job is that this gentleman said the reason why he didn't like a lot of CVs, but he liked mine, is the reason why he didn't like a lot of CVs is because it looked like a shopping list of tasks. Everybody, and as he said to me when he spoke to me, it's like everybody has the same things on their CV because they're taking it from job descriptions and just putting all those things. But what they want to see is what things have you done creatively, especially if you're doing online development as a designer. What things have you created? What achievements have you had? And you don't have to mention customers, just say what you have achieved. And I've changed my CV and I've put that on the front. So under the little, where we used to do it, where you put a profile and you write down all the things you can do, there's just a paragraph there. But now I identify what creations and achievements. So that's there. And then my education, just specific to the job. And then the tools, because the type of job that I'm doing requires use of certain tools. And I think everything's digital. Everybody needs to identify the tools. If you can use SharePoint, please put it down. All right. It might seem like common sense to you, but SharePoint is a skill not everybody has. Not everybody knows how to use SharePoint pages, because nowadays companies use SharePoint as a statement of truth. It is where, for their due diligence, it is where they hold all of their files for auditing, etc. Anyway, I've got to rush because there's another course starting soon for another client, and they're going to be using my platform. So I've got to just 8 minutes to finish this off. Right. So the last thing is QC, quality checking. So for anything that you do, make sure you check your work. I've been in places where QC was the biggest part of the design process. So QC is something that a lot of people don't love. A lot of designers do not like, because QC will send back your work if there's 2 spaces and there should only be 1. You have to go through a whole document and find where there are 2 spaces and remove it to 1. And then you go to another contract where it must only have 1 space, not 2 spaces. So, each contract, each client is different. So you've got to make sure you take note of what they are saying and what they are asking you to do. Okay. And peer review. You will have other people who work with you looking at your work. Now, there may be times when there are inconsistencies with what people are saying. This is my only piece of advice. Having contracted, it's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. If you are being paid £500-600 a day, I'm not saying I was, but I'm just saying, if you're being paid a lot of money per day, guess what I'm going to do? I'll do it your way. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're not the customer. You're not the one who wants the final product. So you have to remember this when you are working on contracts. Yeah? The product is not yours. So whatever the client says they want, they get. All right? And there's no time on a project for taking anything personal, for being political, or being any of those things. Everything has to go over your head. Get on with the job. Get out. That's it. Everything has a shelf life. So your project might be for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. At the end of that time, you hand everything back to the client, and that's it. It no longer belongs to you. So you must do everything as the client requires, even if it makes no sense. As designers, we sit and we complain, but at the end of the day, client rules, yeah? Their money rules. So there will be peer reviews, and you'll get your peers looking at your work. If you've spelt things wrong, it might even be a capital out of place. And you must remember that when you are doing things that are specialist, that you will find there are terms that might be spelt a certain way, or the capitals are in a certain place, or lower cases in a certain place. It's very pedantic, very particular. QC, nobody loves it. And when your design has failed QC, it's almost soul destroying, but you have to just persevere. Just do what needs to be done to get through the day and get through the end of that week or the end of that month, and ka-ching! That's what you have to remember. Be smart. Don't get into any arguments. Not worth it. And then there's final sign off. So the client will sign off, or they will say, we need this piece reworked. So it will come back to you, and you as the designer have to make all the corrections. So that's the life of a designer. Creating a course online for yourself, I recommend that after, creating everything, you check it. Get somebody else to look at what you want. Have some buddies that will look at it or test your course, run it, do a beta version, let people go through it, let them give you feedback. But I tell you now, you're going to see teeny weeny little things that you think people are being pedantic about. be very careful. That's what customers see. They don't see all the great things that you've done. They see the tiny little things you get wrong. So be very careful with what you do. And when you're working online, even secretarial work, even coordinator work, anything you do online, remember, everyone is like an eagle. They see the tiniest thing, but they don't see the big, amazing things that you've done. So you have to really, really, really check your work. So get in touch. Get in touch with me. Sorry, I'm trying to manipulate another. Yeah. So get in touch with me, Janice at JaniceWeir-Germia.com, or go to IDecidedToLive.com. It's better you go to IDecidedToLive.com. It's in the comments, and you can actually connect with me, and then I can start sending you through things, and you can join other things that I am doing where I am sharing information and help people to build and grow. But essentially, when you sign up to IDecidedToLive.com, you're going to get your planning your career. You're going to get your checklist for the 5 years, how to get yourself to that point in the next 5 years. But in the first 12 months, how to build. Now, because of COVID, we're speeding things up. So it just means that you need to give yourself a good month, and you need to do whatever learning. If you need experience, I'm telling you now, if you need it, and you do need experience in course design,